Oh, summer, boating on a lake, taking part in a reading program, visiting a nature center or beautiful garden, or growing your own low-water, pollinator-friendly garden. These stories and more as we celebrate the season on this edition of Connected Colorado. Hi, I'm Wendy Brockman. We're here at Denver Botanic Gardens, where they have some gorgeous, sustainable gardens. We'll take a closer look and get some tips on how you can grow your own coming up. But first, a magnificent visit to the Majestic View Nature Center in Arvada.
It's a place where you can come and just find a little bit of respite from the world. Maybe life is busy and hectic, and it really is just a peaceful, tranquil place in the middle of the city.
The Majestic View Nature Center and Community Park is all about conservation and education. Our mission is to inspire interpretive connections, hopefully to encourage all of our visitors to become stewards of the environment. All ages come to Majestic View. We've got a wide range of programs happening on a weekly basis. So the Majestic View Nature Center and the park can sometimes get very active, and then other times it's very tranquil.
We're surrounded by houses, we're surrounded by the city, and you come here and all of a sudden you're in this little oasis of birds and grasses, and it's just a special place.
I really appreciate the fact that there's areas that are wild. We see deer here. We've had bobcat living in the area. And then all the beautiful flowers and shrubs when things are really blooming. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
Our demonstration garden is 25,000 square feet of native and regionally appropriate plants. So water conserving, pollinator friendly, wildlife friendly garden space. And so we are certified habitat here, and trying to preserve all of that takes a lot of manpower. So we rely a lot on our volunteers to help us make sure we don't have invasive weeds, making sure we have blooming flowers for our pollinators and our wildlife throughout the summer, throughout the year, so everyone can enjoy it.
Was really drawn to the park because I wanted to get some good ideas, and what was nice was that a lot of stuff here is really well established, so you can see how things look over time.
We have a wonderful riparian and aquatic habitat. We've also got a prairie arboretum, and you don't often find those two habitats so close to each other.
My favorite habitat's gonna be the prairie. It's maybe an overlooked habitat because you tend to just see fields of green grass, and that's kind of it. But the prairie is an amazing place. There's not a lot of water there, and so any animal that wants to live there has to have an adaptation to allow them to live there. And so I just find that fascinating.
My favorite habitat is actually right behind me. This aquatic riparian wetland back here has the coolest wildlife. I love the turtles. I love seeing the cormorants and the herons come by every summer. Majestic View offers a wide age range for public programming. We've got toddler programs to middle school and high school programs, and then also adult programming going through on bird walks or nature walks, learning about the history of the park and Arvada. We also have school programs and private programs that any group can book here at the Nature Center in a variety of topics that are easily customizable to any ability or any topic that involves nature.
And while we do offer paid classes that people can come to, for the most part, if you want to experience this place, you don't have to spend any money. You can come to the Nature Center for free, you can come to the park around it for free. So it really is something that anybody in the community can be a part of and not have to have any expenses to enjoy it.
It's a place where kids can just run around outside and see all kinds of different things that you wouldn't necessarily see in your typical yard or ball field type park. It's just a wonderful place for them. And I think the ability for this to be such a great place for people to recharge their emotional and physical batteries, so to speak, is really nice.
My favorite thing about Majestic View is that it is truly a part of its community. From the people who are just walking by, walking their dogs, to the families that come here specifically because they are coming for a program or just to check it out. It really is a part of the community around it and the broader Arvada community. I think that's pretty special.
Great summer visit, but Majestic View Nature Center is open year-round too. Up next, it's an adventure a lot of people don't even know exists, setting sail on the Aurora Reservoir. One resident shows us why life is better on a boat.
You can see this is a really heavy trailer. Lift this up. I learned on what they call Mercury class boats on Cape Cod when I was about 9 or 10. And as a sailor, I can tell you, you've got excellent wind here. I don't know what the percentages are, but they're in the vast majority. I jokingly say there's a reason why we're on the plains here and there's not many trees. That's because they're mostly blown down or subject to wind. I never thought I would be out here, but as I retired, I found that Aurora was growing and annexing areas that were very interesting, and we moved here to the Aurora Reservoir area about 3 or 4 years ago. And when I have time, I come out here to the reservoir to sail my boat, a boat that I got on Craigslist. Well, when I bought my sailboat, I was totally new to it. I brought it down on a trailer and quickly learned that it had to be inspected for invasive species and plants that might be attached to the boat. I learned that it had to have safety regulations. You had to have a Coast Guard approved life jacket, a distress whistle if you needed assistance for any reason from the rangers who have a patrol boat here on the lake and are out frequently. You get to see a little bit of nature. I think it's a hidden gem that Aurora offers. I'm sure if somebody wanted to come out here, whether it be learn how to fish or learn how to sail, they could find a way to get it done. And if anybody were to come up to me and ask me to sail, I would introduce them to the basics of sailing, assuming they were a good swimmer.
So beautiful. The reservoir does not rent sailor fishing boats, but they do offer kayaks and stand-up paddle boards during the summer months. What would summer be without beautiful flowers and gardens? And in Colorado, having a sustainable pollinator-friendly garden is more important than ever. Denver Botanic Gardens shows us why and how it's done.
We're experiencing great changes in weather patterns, in climate. We're getting hotter, the extremes are happening more rapidly, but people who garden, connect with the soil, are growing plants, are making a positive difference. We're creating landscapes that heal the soil, that heal the earth, that heal our souls. These landscapes are incredibly important to us as a species on this planet. As the climate's changing, as things are getting more extreme, there's an even greater need for people to understand and work with the natural world.
The climate, there's no question in my mind, has gotten much warmer and milder. So we can grow all sorts of things we only dreamed about growing once. Many of these are plants that are we shouldn't be growing perhaps. But when we start using the plants that come from our native region and adapted like that, and when we start growing them like in this beautiful garden here, you create a garden which really speaks to our native landscape.
Native plants are already adapted to Colorado soils as well as the Colorado climate. And so they don't need any soil amendments. They're not going to need fertilizer, and they aren't going to need a lot of water. They can definitely still look great in drought conditions.
My interest in being more sustainable in landscaping was spending time in wild areas and thinking how beautiful the landscapes are, and that's what everybody comes to Colorado for, is our natural beauty of the landscapes. And yet we go home and try to create these artificially irrigated landscapes that are on life support constantly. And it just didn't make sense to me. I understand people wanting to grow some of their favorite traditional plants, and that's not a problem. But for the larger picture, it makes so much more sense to use plants that are adapted and don't require so much of your time and your energy and your resources.
An essential part of sustainable gardening is making our gardens ecologically relevant to the larger environment around us. So this includes providing food for wildlife, so fruits, nuts, berries for birds and other small animals, reducing the amount of water that we use, including plants that support the pollinators that are around us. We want to support that larger environment with our gardens.
And when you add water smart plants to a garden, especially using natives, you really end up with a more resilient garden, and you're also kind of preserving something that we lose as development continues all around us. The big difference in a garden like the water smart garden or a purely native garden is that they often will look just great just on regular rainfall, requiring little or no supplemental water. So that is a big difference in how much water an average home is going to use.
It's important when we're thinking about gardens and landscapes to think about plants that come from around the world that have a similar climate or the climate that we're looking to help us sustain. Here at the Denver Botanic Gardens, we are in the center of the great North American steppe climate. Steppe regions are fascinating places. It's the short grass prairies of the world, but they experience extreme cold in the winter, extreme heat in the summer, often long periods of drought. A steppe is most always in the rain shadow of a great mountain range. There's really the four great steppe regions of the world. There's Central Asia, North America, South America and Patagonia, and Southern Africa with the mountain kingdom of Lesotho and the country of South Africa. Plants from these four steppe regions generally do very well for us here. A lot of the work we're doing with new species and research now will impact our industry in the years to come. A group called Plant Select is a marketing program for introducing some of the work that we do here at the Botanic Gardens and making it available to consumers.
They work to find more plants that can be used in our gardens, whether they're native plants or selections of native plants or plants from other regions around the world that are very similar to our region.
It is overwhelming to think about removing an entire lawn or starting from scratch with a new garden. Biting off more than you can chew is a great way to discourage yourself from gardening in the future. And so what I would suggest would be to create a slow transition to native plants in your garden.
Think about the parts of your lawn that you maybe use the least and consider taking out that lawn and installing, adapted and native plants, small pieces at a time.
Notice any plants in your garden that may be flagging in the summer heat, requiring extra hand watering, requiring some fertilizer or soil amendments, and then replace them with a native plant species.
It can be a slow progress year after year to create something beautiful, sustainable, and lasting.
And so I think it's important that if everyone can come together and start using native plants, using less water, it will definitely help out in the long run.
And I think that you can honestly create a garden that's as stunning and more stunning using these plants. And I think we really should embrace it. And more and more people are.
It's such an important topic. Joining me now from Denver Botanic Gardens is horticulturalist Mike Bone. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely, thanks for being here.
All right, so where are we standing?
So right now we're adjacent to our Plant Select garden. And Plant Select is one of the garden features here that showcases what homeowners can do with beautiful plants from around the world that are appropriate for Colorado's region.
So this is what your garden could look like if you want to create your own sustainable garden.
Absolutely, a beautiful space.
Okay. Advice for people who want to have their own sustainable garden.
The best advice is to kind of start Anytime you're interacting with your landscape, with the ground that you're caring for, anytime you're interacting with that and planting flowers or creating vegetables or doing something moving towards diversity in a garden space and plant diversity and things that will attract pollinators, you're moving in the right direction.
That was my takeaway from the video, is that you can start small. You don't have to be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So you have your sustainable garden, then how much maintenance do you need?
Typically sustainable gardens or low water use or these xeriscape kind of gardens are less maintenance than even traditional lawns. You know, you're not out every week mowing and raking and bagging and aerating and fertilizing. With these sustainable gardens, you have efforts that come more seasonally. You know, you do a spring cleanup, and during the season, you know, maybe you go out and pull weeds a few times, or you're cutting flowers to put in a vase inside. So the activity isn't sort of this regimented thing that happens all the time. It's much more seasonal.
It's less work.
It's less work. It's a little different work, and it happens more in sort of little groups throughout the season instead of this regular chore or task.
So less water is important, but why the pollinator-friendly gardens? Why do we want that?
Well, pollinator-friendly is important because pollinators are one of the reasons that we as a species still exist. They pollinate our vegetables, our food. They're fodder for birds and that whole food chain of life that we're a part of. So having pollinators and creating the space is helping to create and keep those plants alive.
What kind of plants do you see in a sustainable garden?
A lot of times you see plants, especially in Colorado, native plants. Native wildflowers are fantastic plants.
The columbines everywhere, the yellow columbines.
Here. Yeah, it's really beautiful. That's Aquilegia chrysantha, one that grows out in our prairies. It's a beautiful plant. So native plants, plant select plants are great starting points.
Where do you get those?
You can find most of these kind of plants at your local independent garden centers. They're a fantastic resource, and many of the trained staff there are excellent plant people and can help guide people. The Denver Botanic Gardens also has a spring plant sale just before Mother's Day, and then we have a fall plant and bulb sale where we sell plants that are appropriate for planting in the fall and bulbs that come up in the spring. Lots of low water choices, sustainable choices, plant select options. It's a great place to come.
So it says plant select on the plant. That's what you want to look for when you're shopping.
Yep, there's a tag, there's a logo for Plant Select, and you can find out a ton of information on the Plant Select website, all about the Plant Select program, the plants, where to get them, what they do.
Are you finding since COVID that more people are wanting to get into the garden as a therapy?
Yes, at the Botanic Gardens, we've worked with, horticultural therapy for a long time for lots of things, but just for general wellness, we're seeing a lot of people engaging in garden spaces. Definitely when we weren't able to travel like people had used to, gardening becomes much more popular. So gardening has really had a great renaissance over the last couple of years, and people are excited to be back out, and they're seeking information, and they're learning more about how gardens can impact climate change and how all of these systems work together to make where we're at a better place.
I'm right there with them. I'm just obsessed with it right now. Yeah. So where can people get more information?
You can get a ton of information about Rocky Mountain gardening here at the Denver Botanic Gardens. We have classes through our education department that teach people about gardening, everything from kids classes to teach young students and kids through the summer about gardening to older people who want to learn techniques like bonsai or propagation or xeriscape gardening or apple grafting. So we've got lots and lots of choices through our education department on learning about everything garden.
Anything else you want to add?
I would just say, take that first step. Any new activity, if you haven't gardened before, seems a little intimidating, and you're gonna make mistakes. I've been at the Botanic Gardens for 20 years, and before that I worked in professional horticulture. So I've been in this a long time, and I make a ton of mistakes. I put things in the wrong place, and I learn from those things. And gardens are living, beautiful creations, and you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna put something in the wrong place, and that's fine. You go back to a nursery, you grow something from a seed packet, it's engaging. Gardening gives you things to look forward to and joy and beauty and excitement through your whole life. So gardening is a wonderful lifestyle, not just a pastime.
Get out there and plant.
That's right. Make it beautiful.
Make it beautiful. All right, thanks, Mike.
Absolutely, thank you.
Finding a shady spot and curling up with a good book can be amazing. And Broomfield's annual Summer Library Adventures encourages both kids and adults to read throughout the summer.
We're at the Broomfield Library today. This is the Summer Library Adventures kickoff party. We have a bunch of activities going on around the whole library, a lot of them outside. So we have the CSU STEM trailer and our makerspace Invent HQ with wood saws and wood cutout projects and painting. We have Ninja Nation Mobile from Lafayette here, and they have a fantastic obstacle course. And we have the Library Friends, we have the Broomfield Veterans Museum, Broomfield Depot Museum. We just did it up this year. And we of course have registration for summer reading.
This is really special. Every year we love to kick off Summer Library Adventures, but the special part of today is so many different partners involved. It's just a really great day to get everybody together, have our families come in and engage with the library for summer reading.
Reading is such an important part of our children's development, and they've got a lot of fun activities planned for the day, and we're just excited to show our kids the adventures they can go on through reading.
This is awesome because it gives kids the opportunity to read over the summer, which we know is super important, and it motivates them with fun prizes.
Summer reading, it's a nationwide thing that most public libraries do just to encourage reading, help people reconnect with their love of reading, to help prevent that summer slide for kids before they go back to school in the fall. It's also a really great way for people to engage with their community. We have a lot of different options for the reading program that you can do other than reading that just supports community, family, outdoors, all the different things that you can do around Broomfield. I've seen lots of excitement, I've seen lots of smiles, I've seen some concentrated looks, especially over at the buzzsaws at the CSU STEM trailer. It's amazing to work with such a great team. I just love helping people. I think a lot of library workers, one of the biggest reasons that they choose to work at the library is to help others. Helping people find books that they enjoy, find their love of reading, just help them connect with resources, people, places that are really going to help them and enrich their lives. For more information about what's going on during the summer at the library, you can go to broomfield.org/summerlibrary. And also to sign up for the reading program, you can go to broomfield.beanstack.org to create an account and get all registered.
Swimming is another summer classic, but unfortunately pools have had to curtail their hours because of a lifeguard shortage. Being a lifeguard can be an amazing job. Just ask this woman from Fort Collins.
My name is Emma Neuschwinger, and I am a swim instructor and a lifeguard for the city of Fort Collins. So I teach kids as well as make sure people are safe when inside the pool and outside of the pool. And it's a fun job. I really like it. 3, 2, for swim instructing, I work with different age kids. So I work with way younger kids and way older kids. Probably my favorite thing to do with the older kids is teach diving. As for the little kids, I love playing games with them and having fun with them and talking with them, just making them comfortable in the water and getting to know them, because little kids can be very funny. I find that the people I work with from the beginning, they're really, really welcoming and respectful, and they're people I enjoy spending my time with, and definitely good colleagues. When working for the city of Fort Collins, I really, really like how I'm able to see the kids grow when I teach them. So like you can start off with a kid who is scared of the water, doesn't want to do anything, and just be able to see that progress with them is really rewarding as an instructor.
That's a great job. Hopefully Emma will inspire others to give it a try. Trees are a critical part of our summer landscape, but it can be tricky to plant and maintain trees in an urban forest like Denver. Luckily, city foresters are there to do just that.
People take trees for granted. They sometimes think that they will always be here.
Trees are a precious resource. They give us shade, clean our air, sequester carbon, and help retain water. Plus, they just look really good, right? They are a constant and welcome presence in our lives, but if we're not careful, we could lose them. That's where the City Forester's Office comes in. These dedicated individuals speak for the trees and work year-round to maintain, protect, and replenish our forest here in the city and county.
These old mature trees, you can't replace them, so if we were to lose some of these trees, then it's going to take decades and up to a century to replace some of these trees that have been here for quite some time.
So we try to keep the trees healthy, resilient, right?
They're responsible for the care of around 225,000 trees in our parks and public rights-of-way.
Behind me, we've got one of our forestry maintenance crews out pruning one of our American elm trees, and then tree removals as trees die. We remove those year-round, and then planting, we basically have two main planting seasons, so spring and fall. Citywide, we plant about 3,000 trees roughly every year.
Denver's trees are defined as an urban forest because they exist within a man-made environment. Working in an urban forest presents a tall task for both the trees and the foresters.
There's just other obstacles, other things that these trees in an urban forest has to kind of deal with. I mean, like a road, like pollution, vandalism in the parks. I mean, they're just social things that trees in our urban forests have to deal with.
And then a lot of it, just citywide is some of the urban development. We've got new buildings that are going up, new homes, and lots of times trees get sacrificed. So, we're really pushing to try to protect those trees during construction projects. And then also just the climate change, temperature fluctuations we had, pretty hard freezes that have, killed fairly mature trees, and then these heavy wet snows that come through drop large limbs and sometimes whole trees. So it's definitely a challenging place to try to grow trees.
There are also pests that are threats as well, such as the emerald ash borer.
So emerald ash borer is a small emerald green insect. So there's a little larva that tunnel underneath the bark, and it'll basically kill the tree within 3 or 4 years typically. What's interesting about EAB is it'll attack healthy trees versus a lot of other insects prey on the stress trees, the drought stress trees and things of that nature. But emerald ash borer will go after a perfectly healthy tree, and so that's why it's such a detriment to our urban forest and a threat.
1 in 6 trees in Denver is an ash tree. Denver Parks and Rec's Be a Smart Ash campaign has resources to help you identify if you have an ash tree and what to do if you have one in your yard. There are also programs to grow our forests in our neighborhoods. The Forestry Neighborhood Initiative works with residents in underserved neighborhoods to identify and remove any hazardous trees in the public right-of-way and replace them with new trees, all at no cost to the homeowners. 208 trees were planted during 2021 under this initiative. There's also the Free Trees program that allows any resident in the city to apply for a free tree to be planted in a public right-of-way. 10,000 trees have found their way into Denver soil since the program began. Another urban forest enhancement project will come alongside the 16th Street Mall redesign project. An additional 76 trees will be added to the current canopy along the mall. The trees will be a mixture of the current honey locusts as well as a slew of others to increase diversity.
But I think what's really cool is what's happening underneath the sidewalk. We're really trying our best to create more soil volume, so that will just give the trees more chance to grow, the roots to grow, which in turn should give us a more vigorous urban forest. To me, that's the coolest part of the whole project.
The foresters have also been branching out for the past 15 years, experimenting with what trees will grow in Denver, including some with lofty expectations.
It was just kind of on a whim. We started planting trees, exotic, non-native trees here in Vanderbilt Park. So I'm going to say 30 species of trees we have in this park. So behind me is a giant sequoia. Off to my left is a bald cypress. A bald cypress is a swamp tree, right? We're in semi-arid Colorado. Those things shouldn't grow here, and we've had really good luck with them.
So don't miss your chance to see a giant sequoia right in your own backyard. And make sure to thank our foresters for helping keep our forest healthy and resilient.
Love those trees and the plants and all the summer activities. Our thanks to Denver Botanic Gardens again for hosting us. We hope you have an awesome summer with relaxing time, big adventures, or both. We'll see you next time on Connected Colorado. Summer's here and there is much to do. Sailing, a nature center, a summer reading program, visiting some sustainable gardens, or planting your own on the next edition of Connected Colorado.